Hello, I realize we don't really know what to call this thing, but this is like our latest spoiler cast episode where
Yeah.
we kind of dig into movies that have been recently released. And we did this once with Barbarian, and we're here again. And I'm Terry, and that was Rambly. Here we
I'm
are.
Mary Beth. And this time we are talking about Scream 6. We are finally talking about Scream
Finally.
6. We did it. We got there. It's fine. But yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about our thoughts about Scream 6 and how the franchise is evolving and some of the crazy set pieces and just our overall thoughts and feelings about it.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's such a big release from this year.
It is. And it's the second non-Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven, Scream entry. Good Lord, I cannot speak today. And I'm curious because I have very conflicting thoughts about this movie. I actually on a rewatch, I still really like it, but there are some things in it that kind of jumped out at me on this the second time. So I'm excited to kind of like peel back and sort of discuss this.
Yeah, because the more I've thought about it, it's like I really liked 6 and I liked 5, and it's like, but the more I think about it, there are some things where I'm like a little soured on now. But we'll talk about mostly regards to the ending, which we'll talk about. But like, kind of just like starting out, because again, like you said, this is Radio Silence's second Scream film. They're like coming off of Scream 5, and like showing the world that they can do it. I really like Scream 5. I think it was a really good kind of like bridging the gap. And then now this is kind of them opening up a lot more and kind of playing more and getting to kind of be more themselves, I think, a little bit. I think the confidence, they've built up a lot of confidence, it felt like.
There's a lot more confidence in this one.
And obviously, like, we're out of Woodsboro, we're in New York City. It was like a big, cool change. And I really do think they utilized that setting really well. I think they could have done it even better, but like, I get it, whatever.
I would have liked there to be a little bit more, because they didn't film it in New York, right? They filmed it up in Canada. Yeah. And so a lot of it is very generic big city type thing.
Yeah.
That is my, like, I would say my biggest complaint about this switch to New York City is that, especially on a rewatch, it's like, this doesn't really feel like New York. It just feels like a random big city.
I would agree with that for sure. And like, if they hadn't put so much marketing on the fact that it was New York and not just like the big city, like that's, yeah. But like, I still think that this was them spreading their wings a little bit more and like having more confidence and really doing some more like interesting stuff, which I think really starts with the opening, where we have Samara Weaving's cameo as like our cold open kill.
Which made me so sad. The moment I saw her, I was like, oh.
I know, me
she's
too.
Going to die.
God damn it. Well, at least we get to see her for a little bit, and she looks good in that dress. So, like,
because listen, I love her. I think she's a fantastic actress. I think her comedic timing is so good. I think she would have been a great addition to this movie's cast. And so when I saw her at the cold open, I was immediately crushed because I was like, oh, this isn't going to be like Scream 5 where Tara lives. This is going to be she's going to die. But I do like the way that it kind of twists this by having her get killed, and then the killer takes off his mask, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So smart.
Well, and it's so interesting. Well, I also, as someone who like got her master's in horror stuff and like wanted to get her PhD, like it was just killing me. Every line she said, like on the phone, I was like, this is the funniest shit of my life. Like it is like just hitting me so hard in so many different places. And I do think they play with this really interesting thing here of like the kind of like back alley killings you think of in like seedy New York City and like Ghostface playing with that, which I think is interesting. They could have done more of that, I feel like, but but that's fine. Whatever. Again, you can't do everything. You can only do so much. But I love, it's so interesting to me because like obviously the real Ghostface is like, you're a copycat to these two dudes who are like copying. But then my thing here is Ghostface is always a copycat killer. Like Ghostface, there's like not, the only OGs are Stu and Billy.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's so fascinating to me that like, there's like a pissing contest with, I don't know, I kind of like, it would be so fun to have like more fleshed out like that, like multiple Ghostface who are not related to each other. Has that happened? Am I not?
No, that's what jumped out to me.
I wish we were playing with that more with this.
Me
that
too.
That would have been so cool because especially with New York being so big you could have so many different, I don't know. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself at the ending.
So what jumped out at me with this when I first saw this when I was watching the movie theater, my heart kind of sunk a little bit because the plot of this movie feels indebted to Clown in the Cornfield Part 2, the book by Adam Caesar.
Okay.
Because that one takes place after a big, massive killing spree in this small town. And then it has followed the survivors into college where conspiracy theorists are now calling them as like they're the actual ones that were the murderers. And so I'm seeing this play out here again in this movie, and I was like, oh, but this is what Clown in the Cornfield 2 is about. And so it kind of made me sad because I know they're making Clown in the Cornfield into a movie, and I was like, do they take from this? I was like, they probably didn't unless they'd gotten like an advance copy because the Clown in the Cornfield Part 2 came out last year and they probably were already filming it. But it was like, I saw that and I was just like, oh, this is feeling very much like that.
And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they could have leaned into it so much more too. And I think there still is this, I think the problem that is always going to happen with these movies is that I'm not quite I think that directors are going to feel beholden to making it a typical Scream movie, or audiences are not going to want to deviate. And I feel like audiences would accept a deviation, but I feel like there is this like weird thing. And again, like we are only 2 movies out of this, and like this is not saying that like how dare Radio Silence not go all out and like completely change everything, but I do think there probably is a fear of doing that, and like
they have to walk a fine line.
They do, and I think that's like really frustrating to me a little bit with what happens with franchises in terms of like, especially one that is so rooted around like 2 people. Like Scream, and then it's just like, okay, you have to follow that. And it's like, I'm not saying I don't agree, but at the same time, like, you can change things up. Like, Wes Craven changed things up a lot, so, like, I think he'd be okay with people, like, maybe expanding or changing the rules of Ghostface a little bit. And I think that's just, like, what I want more of, is what's happening. I'm getting a little bit bored.
Yeah, so... As I was watching the kind of dialogue unfold about these last 2 movies, it surprised me because I do remember a time post Scream 4 when Wes Craven had passed away and there was like talks of rebooting the series, and everyone in the horror sphere was like, this is not a series without Neve Campbell. You need to have Neve Campbell. This is her story. To see that sort of change, in particular over the last 2 films, where now it's like we don't necessarily need Neve Campbell, is what people are like. It's okay if we can move past that story and give her and tie up her story. And so I think it's interesting that we have gone from people saying you can't have Scream without Neve Campbell to these 2 movies being very successful. And yes, Neve Campbell was in 5. She's not in this one. And the reason why she's not in this one...
Like, let's just say, like, barely. In 5. She's barely in 5.
Here's the thing. The legacy characters in 5 were for me, the worst part of the movie. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't feel like they've... Aside from Dewey, I don't feel like those actors really wanted to be there. They seemed bored. They seemed bored and annoyed that they were there. Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell.
They really didn't seem like they wanted to be there at all.
No, they seemed very annoyed at the whole thing. And it sort of like fed in a little bit because at this point, if the character be like, I am so fucking sick of Ghostface coming in and fucking my shit up. So I kind of understand it, but they were very low energy in that movie. And I think Courtney Cox has a bit more energy in this movie, but it is weird watching her in these 2 films and then seeing her kind of flourishing on TikTok and letting people see a goofier side and a more comfortable side that I don't think that we get in here. And so it reminded me how good of a comedic actress she was in the TikToks, because I don't feel like they've done her very well in these 2 movies.
I agree with that. I very much agree with that. Again, there's
and
a good
she
set
should have
piece
been killed.
She should have been killed. I 100% agree. She's a really good set piece, and that's that we'll talk about. And I think she should have been killed at that set piece. I think that would have been a perfect send-off for her. Perfect. I don't know. I mean, like, I think that Radio Silence really has done a good job of, like, trying to create that distance as much as they can, because I think they, again, like, I know that they're working within, like, studio systems, fans, horror fans are crazy, and like we're trying so hard to strike a balance, and I cannot at all begrudge them not changing it entirely.
No.
I think it's more the frustration is more like on like I guess the context of why they can't change a ton, but they have. I mean, again, they've done a great job. I think they have really done like the best they possibly could. Like I think it's really hard to do this, and it is still really like. My tiny nitpicks aside, like they really have done a good job with it. I think that they're really smart, and I think that they're doing like broadly a really good job about bringing Scream to the now and refreshing it and showing that you don't need those faces and that we can have a fucking entirely queer people of color cast as our core fucking four. Like is that not the coolest shit of all time? I just think it's neat.
It's really cool.
It's really
really
cool.
Cool.
And it's mostly women, and it's just neato.
I love the core four in this. I actually prefer this core four to the original. I'll be perfectly honest.
I honestly agree with you because they actually like really like each other, and there's like
they feel like real friends.
They actually feel like friends, and I think that's something that has really shifted from like horror. When Scream was coming out originally to now, where like it was always antagonistic friendships, and I think now we're like, no, like we should show friendship as actually like caring and not like incredibly like nasty and like always kind of going back and forth. And I love that they've kind of embraced this really good found family aspect, especially in this one, as like they're all moving away from home and like dealing with their traumas in different ways and trying to like figure out what the fuck they're doing after this. And I think like they do a good job in trying to like, I lost my train of thought. That's okay.
So it annoyed me in 5 and it annoyed me to a lesser degree in 6, but it still annoyed me that we have Ghost Billy being.
I just like, I don't, it doesn't add anything
mental
for
health
me.
Angle is not the greatest in terms of what's going on with this. However, I love Sam as a character in this one. I love that like she just tells her fucking therapist that, I stabbed him 22 times and I slit his throat. Then I shot him in the head. Like, this is a different perspective of the final girl than what we typically see. Like what we got Nev Campbell's progression from being like a survivor to dealing with PTSD to kind of finally in the third movie kind of moving on with her life. But this, we have like someone that is full of rage and is just like, nope, I fucking stabbed him 22 times and I'm going to do that again if I need to. Like it's definitely a different kind of final girl that I'm used to seeing in the Scream movies. Yeah,
exactly. And I also think like they figured out her character. She's not kind of like a two-dimensional door a little bit. And like, I don't know, Sam is like the worst character in 5. And like the final girl is hard to write. A final girl is hard to write because you want to give like, what you have to hit with them, but you also want to give them depth, but it's really hard. And I think they finally figured it out this one. And like Melissa Barrera gives a really good performance as like an actual like complex Sam that has like a weird variety of emotions between wanting to protect her sister and not trust anyone, but she's also fucking the really hot guy next door, played by the hottie McCutcheon, Josh Segarra,
who plays the ultimate himbos in every role I've seen him in. Between this and the other two, I am like really in love with that goofy man. He's so fucking hot.
He's really good in this movie. It's fun. I'm glad that he's in this movie. But yeah, like she has a lot of, I don't know, it just feels like there's more to her this time. She doesn't kind of feel like a copy-paste final girl type thing. Again, the Billy ghost stuff is like so annoying. Like if we're gonna have a ghost, can we have it be like full-on possession bullshit? Like I would also love a Scream movie that her ass gets possessed. And I know it's not Scream if it's possession, but I don't care. This is my show, and I say what I want. Her ass getting possessed by Billy and going on a killing spree, that would be fucking incredible. Once again, not really a Scream movie, but here I am.
But speaking of like her journey, one thing I noticed on this rewatch, and it's only because I had subtitles on, was that the movie interjects thunder an awful lot with her. There's like a rolling thunder in the score that happens with her character, and it's almost like
interesting.
Her kind of the calm before the storm, like it's just like this little rumbling, and by the end of the movie there's that rumble again as she with the ending, as she takes out Billy's mask and she's standing there and she leaves it. There's a rumble of there as well, and I'm like, what are you trying to signify here? Because I didn't notice it in the movie theater, and the only reason I was clued to it is that it kept saying thunder in subtitles.
Oh. Huh.
So I'm
Look, I
curious
would
about that.
absolutely love for the next one to have Sam be the killer, like for her to be Ghostface. I think that to me is like the best way they can subvert expectations by having like our final girl be the killer. I would love that to pieces. And I think they're prepping us for some. I don't know. I don't usually try to fall into like fan theory bullshit, but like I would like to hope that they're preparing us for something along those lines.
Because they've been setting up in these two movies this like connection between Tara and Sam and the tension between the two of them as like people that have Sam's moved away from the family. She's not been there. Now she's like hovering and being all up in Tara's shit. And so there's like a tension between the two of them that plays out through this movie. And I would love to see that kind of culminate in the third, seventh movie.
Yeah. Fingers crossed.
But this movie does what I love about this film in particular are the set pieces.
Yes, they have incredible set pieces in this movie.
It reminds me of Scream 2. A lot of this reminds me of Scream 2, and I'll be talking about that with the finale. But the fact that we've upped these set pieces and we've made them more intense and more dangerous brings back to mind what I love about Scream 2. From the bodega, where Ghostface is just fucking stabbing someone in the chest and then grabbing a shotgun and blowing the head off of the bodega owner. It's like, ooh, this is intense.
It is one. It's also like you have a gun. You got like a shotgun at one point, and it's like that. This is like the part where it definitely feels like New York, where they're playing with the idea of like people being in these spaces, and even though there's like a public place, like we see again in Scream 2 with the public place stuff, in the opening. It's like this whole people can't help you. Like no matter if safety in numbers doesn't matter anymore. And there's a lot of playing with that. That again, like I think they could have built into even more. And they do that a little bit in the subway set piece too. But anyway, they do this the tension really well in playing with them creeping around also in the bodega. And just that was a really good like, and it was early too. So like they really started like after the cold open, of course, like really get going quickly, which I appreciate very much. Like not wasting time to like start the scares. Yeah, and that was a big one that everyone knew about too, like in the trailer and stuff, because it's the most, again, it's like the most New York thing besides the subway.
Right. But my favorite set piece though is this apartment because it was so surprising to me because it's so claustrophobic that this is happening when everyone is there in the apartment. And this quote unquote murder we'll get to later is happening in the apartment. And then they're stuck in their home being chased. And it brought back to mind like the sorority house chases in Scream 2. But it's, again, small, contained in an apartment. And they have made this space feel both like doors leading to other doors and feeling it very open, but also claustrophobic at the same time. And really kind of taking that sort of house killer to a different level in an apartment, and I love seeing it.
They really do play with that well, and they play with like the shitty apartment doors thing really, really well, and like with him being able to see them across the way and being able to try to like flag it down. I think they play with all of that space in a really another really interesting way that I wish we could have seen more of, but like with playing with those claustrophobic and tight spaces. Because the apartment also leads to the absolutely terrifying ladder scene with our sweet, sweet girl, Anika? Like, sweet, sweet girlfriend of Mindy. Meet such an unfortunate end in this, but it's an incredible kill, but it's fucked up. Like, it's brutal.
Fucked up.
It's brutal. Because she's, like, stabbed over and over again and then shaken off the ladder, and then she just...
When he's, like, slowly cutting up her stomach, like, slowly about to disembowel her, it's so vicious. These two movies are so fucking vicious in a way that the original Scream were vicious, but not to this sort of, like, in-your-face degree.
Yes. Exactly. Like this one, I know, this one especially, I was like, oh, they turned it up, like the gore up a lot. Because, oof, they were pulling no punches. Like, no punches to everybody. Again, like Mindy talks about with the rules of the franchise. Like, everybody is getting stabbed. Everybody is getting torn apart. Like, nobody is safe. We do not, and they definitely do that to a degree here. But we'll talk about it more at the end, about how they don't fully deliver on that. in my opinion.
Yeah.
But then, like, at this point, because I know we've had because we do have, like, the Mindy, like, breakdown of the franchise. Like, we have to have the meta commentary stuff about everything is bigger. Whatever happened last time, expect the opposite. No one is safe. Main characters are expendable. And they start talking about the suspects. Like our usual Scream scenario where we have the horror movie nerd break it down, like, very obviously for us, which is, like, kind of annoying a little bit, but that's okay.
But I do love that like, she is like, I did not get it right last time, but this time I'm going to try to get it right. And she pins both Ethan and Quinn. And what I love later is that when she thinks that she was wrong, she's like, God damn it, I got it wrong again. What the fuck? Fuck this franchise. Which made me laugh so much.
It was very good. She is. Mindy's incredible. Jasmine Savoy Brown is the best. I'm so glad that she's in this movie as our queer guide through horror. But, like, before, because there's a set piece with her, but then there's another set piece with Gail, Courtney Cox, in her incredible New York apartment with her very hot boyfriend. Like, she's living the life. Like, she really is, like, living the life.
She moved on from Dewey pretty easily. She's getting that good dick.
Oh my god. But we have this, like, incredible chase sequence through her apartment, which, again, another instance of using the smaller apartment spaces, but her apartment is, like, bougie apartment. It's not, like...
lavish.
It's, like, beautiful, like, huge balcony. And again, they play with those spaces really well. Mm-hmm. And this is an instance of that. And a lot of, like, glass shattering and incredible phone call humor, even though she still has a landline.
I know, but I love that she's, like, talking to this guy as she has her gun, and then she's like, "Can you hold, please?" Like, oh, he's like, "What? Like, what?" He's so upset that she's hanging up on him, but she star 69s him basically and calls him back.
So good. I absolutely love it. I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm fine with her having a landline if this is what we get.
She had a lot more to do in this movie than in the last movie.
Yes.
And this sequence is the kind of shit I kind of want to see.
Yes.
And I just wish, like, okay, I don't wish that characters would die, but what worked really well about Scream 2 was that it killed someone that was a fan favorite. Randy was a fan favorite at that time. And it showed that, like, oh, this core group of people are not safe. And here in this movie, we even have Mindy, as you mentioned, giving us the sort of, like, rules of this franchise that main characters are not safe, that anyone can probably die. But then no one dies.
No, and that's what's so annoying. It's like the Gale set piece was a perfect time to kill her. It was an incredible way to send off Gale. Like, that would have been a really good way to end that arc. And I think then we start fresh and don't have anyone left from the original, and then we can kind of, like, restart the cycle in the next movie. I feel like that is just, like, a very good natural progression. Mm-hmm. And we don't lose any of the core four either. Not saying I wanted to, but you say main characters are expendable. Like, I'll kill one of them. Like, not to sound shitty, but, like...
No, but it's like, it's not that I want them to die. It's that I don't want them to die, that one of them should die. Because
Exactly. I
felt this felt stakeless. Like, when Chad is standing there getting, like, pincushion from both of them, I was like, oh, my heart sunk. And then, of course, we get
upset.
him. I was too. And then, of course, it's like the Dewey moment where he just keeps getting... He's basically the Dewey stand-in.
I know.
He keeps getting stabbed. But it's because it's more vicious. It looks like there's no way there's no way a human would survive that, because it is so fucking vicious.
Fucking exactly, though. Like, it's so vicious, and it's like I just feel like they're trying to put them into, like, these slots that existed, even though you have the core four. You don't have to try to fit someone into, like, the Dewey slot or this or that. I don't know. It just is like, it doesn't need to be, like, replacing. You know what I mean? And, like, I'm not saying they're trying to, but it feels like that. And I felt like that throughout a lot of the movie. Because even though there's four of them, I did feel kind of like we were trying to put each of them into, like, a little bucket or something, of, like, whatever. And that's, like...
An archetype.
Yeah. And so, I don't want him to die. I just think it would have been a good move.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think that's the thing, is that this movie, for as vicious and as intense as it is, it felt very safe. It felt like the writers did not want to kill their darlings, right? They're like, we
Yeah.
love these characters. Everyone loves these characters. We don't want them to die. And I get that. Completely get that. I don't want them to die either. However, it is something that I think Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson realized back in number 2 is that you need to have a kill that is going to fracture the group and is going to cause the fans to go, what? I can't believe he died. And we get a lot of fake outs in this one. We get Gail's fake out and she's saved. We get Mindy's fake out, she's saved. We get Chad's fake out, he's saved. And so that is like my biggest complaint about the movie is that you have all these fake outs of moments that are like, and then it sort of cheapens it because it's like, oh, she's going to go to a hospital. He's going to go to the hospital. He's fine, even though he was stabbed like a million times. It's like...
I know. And I just feel like it would have been so much more interesting if Chad had died. Like, could have Mindy's grief, and then you could have, like, have Jenna Ortega, like, kind of understanding where her sister's coming from in terms of, like, grieving and also the trauma. And I don't know. But, again, I didn't write this movie. I still think it's more... It's just more whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think they want to kill her darlings. Like in the subway scene, this incredible subway scene that has all these cool horror Easter eggs, the Halloween party costumes, and there's like again a really good example of playing with claustrophobia. I think they did this part really well in terms of playing with the lights flashing. Like this was a really awesome, like a really well directed and blocked moment where we have Mindy like getting fucking stabbed on the subway. Like that was a surprise.
Hand over her mouth. Someone passed out drunk next to her.
Oh, it's just like, it's so good and it's so fucked up.
The premise of being in New York, everyone can hear you scream, but no one cares is basically the feeling.
And I think they do that a little bit at the beginning with Samara Weaving's death. And here they play with that really well too. And I love Mindy, last person I want to die. But again, would have been a really interesting kind of like play with killing a main character, especially as she's the one saying like, God damn it, I got it wrong again. But then we get like our big culmination reveal. Oh, we haven't even mentioned fucking Kirby in her ugly ass wig in this movie. She's still, again, this is another fucking instance of like, there was no point to her being there. I'm sorry, but like
service.
It's just like there was no point in her being there. It was like kind of lame. It just felt like again, it's fan service to the point of like no.
Which is funny for us for 2 episodes of this franchise that have sort of been like tearing down toxic community and like communities like the film fandom, whereas like we have that, but then we also have them saying everyone wanted Kirby to live in 4, let's bring her back. And so it's weird to me that we have this dichotomy of kind of poking fun at the fandom for the way in which people are so obsessed with this movie and so upset, or this franchise, and so obsessed with, well, any franchise in particular, but this is like the particular one that we're discussing. But this idea that like people on Letterboxd or like all that kind of stuff, it's skewering them, but at the same time, it's like, here's some fan service. And it just, I don't know, it did not ring true to me. I don't think she was needed.
I agree.
She was a really bad red herring. Like, don't listen to her. She was fired as as Dermot Mulroney. That's who it is, right?
Yeah.
Is like, telling everyone that. I'm like, dude, no. And here's my thing. This is the first time in a Scream franchise that I figured out 2 of the killers before.
Oh, really?
I knew right away that it was the cop, and I honestly thought that it was Quinn, and then she died, which I think is a cop out. That really bothered me. I think that is a huge plot hole in this movie because I'm sorry, you can't just like hide her body and put someone else. The whole way that unfolded, I'm like, this does not sound real. But I honestly was like, it is going to be him and it's going to be Quinn. Why? Because this is a recreation of Scream 2. We're out of Woodsboro like in Scream 2. We're following them to college like in Scream 2. We have revenge as the motive like in Scream 2. And I was like, so obviously if we're following this trend, it's going to be the father of Richie. And I was like, and it didn't make sense to me, but I was like, it's probably Dermot Mulroney and it's probably his daughter because his daughter talks about losing her brother. And I'm like, this is obviously the motive for it. So I picked it up immediately. And then I was surprised that there was 3. I was like, oh, okay, we're going to do 3 this time. But like, that is, it didn't, I guess like it bothered me that I was able to figure it out because it felt a little too we're going to recreate the second one a bit.
Yeah. I know. That's how I felt too.
But I also didn't really care that I figured it out by the end. I don't know. It's weird.
I didn't figure it out. I just like, it's more, I don't know. I just like, it felt so Scream. I wanted something a little bit more surprising. Like, it just felt like, I mean,
it was very traditional.
I didn't predict it, but I wasn't like that surprised. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, okay, of course. Like, this is the connection. And like, it's interesting, but again, it very much felt like it was trying to be its own version of Scream 2 and like following in those footsteps. And
even Scream 2 ended in the theater and this ended in a movie theater. Like, come on. The stage with Cassandra and here we have the shrine. You know, it's very gothic and very like Greek tragedy feeling to it, but this one isn't a tragedy in the same way that Scream 2 is. So I guess it kind of subverts that expectation in that regard. But like, it's very much we're recreating Scream 2 in a way, and that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I know this sounded like very negative, guys, but like,
no, I've really enjoyed this movie.
I liked it. I think we're just doing it, you know, especially after like thinking about it, after seeing it again, and like being out of the hype, it's kind of like easier to dissect it a little bit more and kind of like on a more like molecular level discuss it and what was effective about it and what wasn't. But like overall, like for two dudes who are like getting a franchise that has had such like a history, they're doing an incrable job. Like, they
are.
I'm not saying I could do this any better, but like, because like I can only imagine the shit that they hear. Yeah,
yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's just that there's when I do think that, as you said, I kind of want them to get beyond being an homage almost to like the original series.
Because I want them to break the mold a little bit more, and I think and again they're doing that, and I think hopefully if they do the next one, they'll really break the mold even more. I'm hoping. It's hard, but yeah, I'm very curious what they do next.
I think this is like a 3.5 to 4 star movie for me. I still really enjoyed it. I think it's above average. It's a really good thriller. It's a really good slasher. It's just there are moments in there that I feel it's a little too beholden to the original series in terms of structure.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. 100%. Very much on the same page with you about that. Well, that's been our spoiler cast about Scream 6. Let us know in the comments what you think, if you agree, if you disagree, what you think about Scream 6. Would love to hear it.
Where do you want to see them go with Scream 7?
Yeah, where do you want to see them go with Scream 7? I want Sam to be the killer, is what I want. So, that's my call. I also wanted Stu to come back this one, but I also just love the idea of Stu coming back because I love Matthew Lillard and I want to see him in more stuff. Like, that's basically the only reason. Or you can let us know over on Twitter. I'm at MB McAndrews.
I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And if you're a patron and you're not following us on Twitter, the podcast on Twitter, weird. But if you need it anyway, it's at Scarred Podcast. And
please, thank you for being a patron. Thank you for, I'm sorry this is a little bit later than we kind of anticipated. It has been a aggressive.
I don't know, life be lifing.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you guys for supporting us. And if you haven't, please make sure that you have reviewed us on iTunes and left us a rating on Spotify if you listen to those. And make sure you're subscribed and you're downloading the episodes, because I'll tell you, those day one downloads is what really helps with the algorithm, the stupid algorithm that we are beholden to.
Damn algorithm. Beholden to the algorithm. But anyway, thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you all for listening and supporting. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.